Thank you for joining. I'm glad to see that a lot of people is interested actually in design in developers conference, so that's quite nice. I will talk today about why the UI is important. I will talk a little bit about user experience. Let me first introduce myself. So my name is Perić-Mažar. I'm from Split, Croatia. For the last 10 years, I'm involved in web development and I'm running my own agency. This is my second time speaking here at the conference, so thanks for inviting me again. I also co-founded some NGO organizations, so we are doing a lot of meetups and conferences in Croatia. I think like every one of us should give something back to the community, so that's also what I'm trying to do. Regarding my company, just a few words. We are located in Split. This is some of our works. We are doing mostly international projects. We have at the moment 22 employees, and we are building like custom CRMs, custom ticketing systems, doing a lot of user experience things for banks, telecom operators, and other things. If you have questions, we can talk about that later. I love to focus on my talk, of course. So I just said a few words about myself. What I want to know is more about you. So is there anyone who is not a developer here? Okay, 2 persons. Designers? 1. Okay, cool. So it should be interesting. Today I will try to talk about why the UI is important, what is UI, how we can impact on a good UI, and what's the user experience and how we can change things. And I will show you a few examples. I will show you a few examples that we did on our website and why we did it. I will explain you. So just to try to get you to the image like what we were thinking about and why we implemented some things. So first I want to start, and my idea of this talk also is to try to inspire you to think more about users. I think a lot of backend developers especially don't consider users as something very important, like we are focused on, I don't know, terminal APIs or whatever, and we don't think about actually the people who are using our applications. So let's start with actually who are users, who are your users. So I think one of my friends actually said a good thing. In every other business except in development and drug dealers, people have clients, we have users, right? So let's focus on them as a clients. Like that people are actually paying our salaries, are paying all the toys and benefits that we have inside our cool open offices, right? And we know who are they. We don't know their names, but we know like how old are they. We know what they are interested, and don't tell anyone, but we also know where they live. So we know quite a lot of information about our users. So basically, they are not like unknown for us, and we can adjust our user interface and user experience directly to our users. So second question is actually what's the user interface? And basically, user interface is everything. Like anything that we interact with, even this glass is user interface. So if there is some definition, and this is the most important part of it. This can include display screens, keyboards, mouse, whatever. Like any device, keyboard is also interface, of course. When we are talking about software, layout of our application is interface. So what's the most important interface for our users? That's this. Actually, it's a mobile device. Like we spend 6-7 hours per day using this device. We have 84 to 85 interactions per day with mobile device, so that's a huge number. We are going to the toilet with this device. That's true, right? So if we see some stats, like there is more, by 2020, there is more people with mobile phones than with water or electricity. That's not something to be proud of, but that's a stat. Also, already in 2016, we started to search more from mobile devices than from desktop devices. And in 2017, we served more data to mobile devices than to desktop devices. In some industry, like fashion industry, we are serving even 65 to 70% of the data to the mobile devices. And if we check how users are using mobile devices, they are spending most time using mobile apps, not the mobile web. But there is bigger reach on a mobile web comparing to the mobile apps. But the reason for this is that actually the user experience of mobile web is really broken. It's not really good. Like the scrolling is not good. We don't have, like progressive web apps improve that a lot, but that's not topic today. So, but it is bad still at the moment. So we need to focus on that. So the next question is actually, what is the user experience? And before I proceed further, who thinks actually that user interface is the same thing as user experience? Nobody? Cool. I agree with you. So basically, the user experience is entire process designing and creating products to providing meaningful and relevant information to the users. So basically, part of the user experience includes everything from, like when you enter the store, for example, if you go to Apple Store, when you enter inside, you are part of the user experience. When you buy the phone, you get the beautiful box, then you open it, then you say, wow, and everything else. That's also part of the user experience. Customer service support is also part. So everything, entire brand is part of the user experience. So yes, UI is not UX. So we can check on this image, like UI is amazing, right, very beautiful. But for the users, that doesn't work, right? So okay, there is another good analogy why user experience is important. And that's like if you have enough big of the cheese, this mouse will go through the very powerful electric grill to get the cheese. But you don't have that amount of cheese, right? Because this was happen, like if you are giving the free music or porns or whatever, that's maybe possible. But this was possible for ICQ, Napster, and things like that because they didn't have competition. For example, today, there is no chance that ICQ will succeed because we have WhatsApp, which is much better user experience, right? So basically, the one thing is sure, you will never have enough cheese. So you need to focus on building good user interface / user experience. And there is amazing, I hope you know who is this guy? Jeff Atwood, so co-founder of Stack Overflow, and he's the writer of Coding Horror blog, actually one of the guys who inspired me to do this kind of the talk. And he said that he doesn't care about architecture, about diagrams, about anything on the back end, he cares about UI. Because UI is hard, but if you don't build impressive UI, you basically don't have anything. And I really suggest you to check this book as developers, as designers, as project manager. It's like how to be better without writing the code. Like one of the things is how to think about users. Second very amazing quote is from the guy who created Ruby. So he said, like, if you have the system, but system is slow, and you have a budget, you can improve that. But if you don't have user interface, you don't have anything. And that's really true. So for your users, the UI is actually the application. That's what are they using, that's what are they interacting, and they don't care do you use some of the latest cool backend JavaScript framework, Java, PHP, whatever, they care about what they can do, right? There is actually one situation when there is no help. Does anyone know which one? If your app or software doesn't do anything or solve any problem, like then there is no chance that someone will use that. Okay, the next part of the talk is how we can improve building UI. And the first thing is discussion about relations between designers and developers. So who in a room thinks actually that it's harder to work with developers than with designers? And who thinks in other way? Okay. I think both type of the persons are really hard. Like if you talk with designers, they are always the best one. If you talk with developers, it's the same thing. So if you put them in the same room, you will usually have some conflicts about misunderstandings or whatever. The biggest problem is the flow, how usually people work. They usually work in a way we need some UI. Then you send requirements to the designers. Then they do some kind of the work, and then they send like finished PSD files or sketch files, and then developers implement that. So in that process, I don't see anywhere where we have solution or that team actually is working on a product or a problem. And usually, designers will say, I think that's the solution, use that color. They like, once they deliver the first version, usually they don't care about updates, which is very wrong. On the other side, developers usually don't appreciate the designer's work because they think that's too easy. So how to fix that? Actually, this is also the part of the process that we started 2 years ago to use in our company, is to do UX UI first development. Who is practicing this? Okay, so what's the idea? The idea is you get the problem. For example, you need to build a login form for some e-commerce solution. Then entire team sits together and they work on a problem. So they are sketching the things. And why it is good? Because we have, as I mentioned already, we have two problems actually. The developers are used to do as traditional computer science. We love console, we love to build the code and everything else, but we don't care about user interface. On the other side, we have designers who usually think they know everything, and that's their design is the best ever. So when you put that people in a room, you get some benefits. First benefit is that entire team is working on the same problem. So they will, at the beginning, do already the QA, and they will find much more problems and much more solutions together. Second thing, humans are visual person. So if we have something that is drawn already, it's much easier to develop that, right? So if you have tasks like build a login form, and then you have, here's the username, here's the password, here is the button, here's checkbox for GDPR or whatever, it's much easier for you to develop that kind than if you have written just in a Jira, you need to develop a form, right? And UI helps to understand the problem. So basically, if you see the client already knows what he will get in the future. There is no misunderstanding in a process. And that's the most important part is the two last points is that you are solving a lot of issues even before you start developing. So sometimes you will just remove some parts because you don't need it. Sometimes you will change entire flow. For example, the last client that I worked with, they had really complex flow in registration, their users. And then I suggest them, like, why not use invitation code, and we know where to put that user. And that was amazing because we reduced like 2 weeks of development, and for the user it's much simple way of using that. If you have any questions, just ask at any time. Second thing, you cannot presume anything. And if you have like user expert who said, I presume something, that's not the guy who wants to build the user experience. Because we have a data, we need to test things, we need to test that on the users, and today that is much easier than ever. Like, for example, you have Crazy Egg. You just need to put a line of JavaScript on your website, and you get all the information. Where they are clicking, what are they scrolling. I will show you the video how they are actually clicking to the website. So basically, when you release the project, you can just check this after the week, and you will find, like, for sure, 10, 15 bugs that you didn't solve. And you can improve that very easy. So you will see now, there is recording, and you will see entire flow of the user, what he's actually doing. For example, on our page, we had a problem because users presume that everything what's blue is a link. And for example, this free open position, free open is not a link. And you can see what's actually happening on the website. And this is a very nice tool, actually very cheap for everything that you are getting. And the most important part about testing and pre-assumption of something is that you will create problem if you think too much and if you don't test. Especially if you are redesigning some existing website or application which already has like a bunch of the data in Google Analytics. You can check the data. You don't need to pre-assume anything. I have a second question for you. Do you work on any website at the moment? Like, who is working on some website? Okay, left or right? Usually this is the half of the internet looks like this. Partially it's okay, because we have sometimes it will be scroll on the top. So it will be different element organization, but this is like even more than 50% of our websites looks like this, which is perfectly okay, but we need to add something, because this is very boring and this is very predictable. That's okay on the other side, because users know how to use that, and that's okay. But why are we always doing the same designs? The first problem is that good design is very hard, and good user experience is even harder. When we connect that two things, that's actually really expensive. So we get this. And then usually it's a long process, including testing and everything, and it's expensive process. So usually we don't have budget for that, or clients don't want to invest their money because they think like we already knows everything. And it's easier to use already tested and known patterns. So at the moment, if I ask you, like, can you remember one memorable web page that you saw in a week or two? You can maybe remember one, but you know 2 or 3 websites that you saw last week and you say, whoa, this is amazing work. Anyone? Maybe 2 persons. That's like not cool, right? Okay, so what's then design about? It's about tiny details. It's about making the web personal. So there is amazing article, huge article on Smashing Magazine, written by Vitali. It's called Bringing Personality Back to the Internet. And it talks about tiny details that actually doing that. I will show you 2 details from that blog post, and you can check that. And there is a few talks on YouTube that you can also check. It's amazing work that he did, and you can learn a lot. And you can, like, with really, really small things, you can improve your design. For example, login form is boring, right? But we can make it fun. So you will remember this tomorrow, right? Also, I showed you the templates. And MailChimp is using exactly the template I show you. Maybe the elements are different, but they have a bunch of details, bunch of illustrations on their website, so their website looks amazing. This is the MailChimp. If you compare it to the template I show you, that's it. But these details, and the details they have inside creating campaigns and everything else, this makes a web very personal and very memorable. And that's the main idea about that. On the next slides, I will show you what we did, like how we tried to put part of our culture to our company website. So we started with this. This is when you go to our website, this is how it looks like. And there are 2 important elements here. One is this green box on the top, which actually try to communicate to you directly as a human. He will try to invite you to our meetup. He will try to tell you that we have open position for hiring. He will try to tell you that we got some awards or something else. Second very important thing is this here. For all the people on the internet, including developers, this GDPR thing is very boring and annoying, right? So what we did, we tried to implement this actually. This is the very popular cookie from Croatia. And we took that cookie, you saw it as a cookie, and we got a bunch of emails actually like, your cookie policy looks amazing, from the people from Croatia. Like, or from our clients, like, we went to your website and that, like, it's awesome what you did with, we call this domaćica. So basically, like, with a small detail, we at least improved a little bit this cookie policy, right? Second thing, what we try to do is on our hiring page to make it a little bit better. So now that, why is not video here? Let me try like this. Okay. So we try to put the people and some internal jokes here. So for example, Davor is listening obviously some weird music, right? He's the QA guy. Danilo is really strict project manager guy. So we try to show people who will probably tomorrow work with us about our culture. We also implement this kind of validation, like if this is not good. And then if you get an email and everything else, this is also persons from the team. So we try to make things like little bit, like to get closer to our culture and to make things little bit powerful. And then for me, like personally more, like most interesting thing, and we spent a lot of time on that, so it's this. Like in Split, in Croatia, and in our office, we don't do so much handshakes. We do something that we call besa. So it's a fist bump, right? So even if you say someone besa on our Slack bot will respond to you with besa. So what we try to do, actually we copy a little bit from the Medium, but we change the Medium clap with the besa here. And also reactions from our clients, from people who are reading the blog, we got a bunch of emails like, this is very nice detail. And especially the people who know our culture inside the company, because like the first thing that when you are entering our office in the morning, probably we will give besa to someone, the first person you met in the stairs. And of course, like every cool agency, there needs to be some dogs on the website, right? So yeah, we have a dog. This is 404 page. Okay, let's move to something else. Who do A/B testing? Okay, few people. The problem with A/B testing usually is that we are testing local maximum. So if you take, for example, Instagram or Facebook, it's testing their icons. Is pixel left, pixel right, 2 pixels left, 2 pixels right. Change a little bit the gradient of the blue color and things like that. That's testing the local maximum. So nobody goes out and try to break something globally. Actually, when you are doing this small testing, you will need also to test what's happened with your site globally. Does it affect to that? So testing is nice, but you need to have in mind that you actually are not testing like anything new. You're just trying to make it perfect, let's say. And what will be a good idea, actually, it's to try to break rules sometime. When I try to break rules, I mean like go outside of these traditional designs and do something different. Of course, if your client, if your project is perfectly fit for that. So there is in Antwerp, there is one museum, and their website looks like this. It's breaking some rules, right? But it's very memorable. It's very nice, actually, and fits perfectly for that museum. As you can see, like if someone designed this to you, you will say, "Are you crazy? Like this is not a good design. Look these images and everything else now." But it's very nice website, actually. And what's the next point where we are going is that usually when you open some new application which has different user experience, which is probably not tested, you will get some things, some explanation how to use that application, how to use websites, but nobody reads that. So that's a huge problem. So like I will show you example of old Stack Overflow. Like they had this. They had like comment, they have preview, they have on the top, actually this is Markdown, same as today. And they explain it here, like here, half of the website is explanation how to use that. User sees only this. That's it, nobody, they just ask the questions like how to style the text. So don't test it. And then you will see, and you don't need a bunch of people to test it. We worked on one really challenging project. If you take 5 tests, like we are on the 3rd floor on our building. We just went down to the office below us, took the 5 random people and tested on them, and we resolved like 90% of the issues. And that was amazing work, and client was very happy. Part of the user experience on a mobile and on a web is, especially on a mobile where the websites are really slow. So if, for example, on 3G, average is 90 seconds, on 4G, average is 40 seconds in 21st century to download one website. And websites can take up to, I don't know, 70, 80 megabytes. So imagine if there is no roaming in Europe as now it is. So for example, downloading average website for me from Croatia in Netherlands will cost around 20 euros or something like that. That's like nonsense. So do you think that 3 seconds is too long? Who thinks it's too long? Okay, compare this. This is 1 second, this is 3 seconds. Do you still think now it's even longer, right? So like when you compare this to this is like forever, right? Yeah, so have that in mind, of course. Again, you need, always when you are optimizing something, you need to take in mind also return of investment. For example, at some point, we stopped optimizing performance of our website because we get to the point like there is no difference for our user. If that was an e-commerce solution, we will probably optimize more. But in our case, we touched the position where we are finally satisfied and everything works perfect for a blog agency website. Is there anyone younger than 1993? Do you all know what's this? You all play this? Okay, so it was a fun game, right? Especially the multiplayer mode. In 2016, average size of website was bigger than Doom. Now it's even bigger. Now it's 3.4, 3.5 megabytes, which means that we as developers are doing actually something wrong. Like, this is entire game. Okay, it doesn't look like the games today, but it has models, it has some physics, it has a bunch of weapons and everything else. So everything was put in like less than 3 megabytes. And I'm not talking about big sites, I'm talking about static websites, sorry. So this is something that means that we are doing something wrong, actually, that we don't care too much. And that means that we are preferring developers' experience over user experience, which is wrong. Users should be first, then developers, then everything. Designers, developers, of course, then everything else. That also means that we are not know what we are actually using. So for example, if you are any front-end developers, how many of you checked ever node modules folder? And what do you think about that? Like, not very good thing. Like, even the standard stack, when you install the node modules for static website, is around 70 megabytes. Of course, it's not what is going to production, but still, come on, for static website with few images, few headlines, and few paragraphs, that's like something totally wrong. So as a developers, we need to start care more here. We need to actually know what are we using, and sometimes we don't need to use an entire package from Composer or NPM or whatever. Maybe we just need like some 2 lines of the code which we can written by ourselves. And in that time, in that situation when that's happened, like reinvesting the wheel is perfectly okay, because you don't want to use a big truck if you just need a bike to go from point A from point B in Amsterdam, for example. Okay. Next thing I want to talk is accessibility. So who is taking care of this? Yeah, like 10% of people. Actually, 10% of people in the world has some accessibility problem, and they are your clients. They are using your website. They are using your mobile applications. They are using everything that you produce. And that's a huge number. If there is more than 7 billion people, 10% is like 800 millions, right? Something like that. So yeah, that are your clients, and with really small effort, you can do much for them on your website. Like even adding alt text, checking the contracts, and that's already a step forward. So take care of this. This is very, very important thing. One of the things that we are failing is this, in development and in design. Like we always said, if I start a new project and I write the first line of the project, now it's already legacy, right? We agree on that. Same is for design. Why? Because we are actually designing for the future. We are designing based on our experience from the future. So I have 3-year-old kid, and for her, the primary input is touch. For us, that was not the situation. We actually learned how to use palms, how to use thumb-driven design. We used how to use the touch. For her, the buttons are like, what's this? So for example, it took a week to start using the touchpad, and iPad was like, I'm perfectly okay with this. And if you check the kids, they are usually a little bit in front of us. So they are like maybe 1 day in the future, but we are like 10 days in the past. So it's very good to check them and see like what's happening, how their brain works, how they operate. So for example, for me it was funny, and I understand that later when she stand in front of TV and try to change the channels like this. And I was like, what are you doing? And then same on my laptop, and okay, your interface is touch. Mine was, I think, Commodore 64. So that's a huge difference. And this is not easy. Like, it's very hard to predict the future, because even 10 years ago, for us who were in industry already, it was hard to predict that mobiles will be so popular, that we will have, like, I don't know, machine learning or something. We talked about that, but nobody knew what will happen. Same is with design, with interfaces. And today something is happening, actually. It's happening that we have Internet of Things. So interface is almost everything. Your car is interface, your everything. And most of things that you can operate is with the voice. The biggest problem with the voice is user experience, because it's awful at the moment. Like if I try to talk with the Siri now, she probably won't understand me half, right? And that's annoying. So I don't want to use Siri. But imagine like you have that on your phone already, or you have Alexa home, and you can say like, Siri, I have a meeting in 3 p.m. on the other side of the Amsterdam, and she just booked everything. You don't need to do anything. That's already possible. You have Google Assistant, and that's something that will be probably break changer in a game. And that's more work for us as developers. I will give you one simple example. When you are developing website, or actually when you are searching something on a Google, how many results you see? 10, right? Usually 10, without ads. If you ask the Siri or Alexa, how many results she will respond? Only one. So yeah, that for us as developers will be very hard to implement, and of course technology will go forward and everything else. I have a few more questions for you. Yellow questions, right? Okay, so is this good design? This is actually from Amsterdam, I think. Who thinks this is good or nice design? Okay, 5% people maybe. Yeah, very nice tails, right? Who thinks this is good design? Okay, who thinks? Even less people. Let's go back. This is the web page for the hostel in Amsterdam, which main sales point is that you will have nice time with a lot of party and drinking inside it. You are not expecting any kind of like hotel service or anything. Actually, they say that they suck in service. And that's perfect design for that. Like, you will go there, you will see a few pictures from Instagram, you will see happy people, young people, and if you want to be part of that, you are going here. This application actually helps people with dyslexia to read easier. And this design, this font is adjusted for that. And this is perfect design, actually. And that's the point where context matters. So your design is always bounded to the context. For example, if we designed this mobile application in a way of this hostel web page, that's totally wrong. That sucks. But in the context of that thing, that's perfect. Same as this application. This application, actually we build this application, and it's already tested, and now we are building English version for a client, and that really helps people. Like this, that's like a lot of people has problems with reading and dyslexia, and this actually helps them. And okay, one more question. So the context matter. This is not the error. This is the black screen. Okay. Who thinks this is good interface? Anybody? Accessibility hint. What if you are a blind person? And I will show you the video.
You might wonder how blind people deal with everyday challenges. Well, normally the answer is simple. We're not that different from you. We play music. We go to school. We go to work. You get the picture. And sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes.
Connect to.
That's where you come in.
Establishing video connection.
Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button.
That's a nice picture of you and your family, Kelly. Is it for a present? Yes, it's a photo from our parents.
You can help just by installing the Be My Eyes app.
Print image.
And we'll notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry. Someone else will step in.
That milk is way too old.
So, would you care to be my eyes?
I had the same face as you when I first saw this, and that's the reason why the primary goal of technology should be connecting people through the emotion and actually to improving our lives. And that's, I think, the most important thing. And the black thing can be, as we saw now, can be a perfect interface if you have a solution to help someone. Thank you. Questions? Yeah.
We recently had a user case testing, like we paid a company to get some people and test our application. It was really fascinating and I really liked it. That we were the owner of the product
So the question is, if you are testing the users for your application, do you want to know that you are the owner of application? You want to keep distance. You don't want to have anything that could affect the results on them. So usually you will give, usually what we do, we give someone else to do the test, the procedure, and then if you have, like in Croatia, it's very hard to have like the rooms with the glass and everything, but if you have a chance to use that, that's the perfect, because you can see what users are actually doing, but you can do that also with camera, so you can record what he's doing. But the most important thing is that he never used the application, and that you are not like, I'm the owner and I'm over your head, like, not do that.
Because they want to say nice things because they know that
Yeah.
you know.
You want them neutral, and then you will get amazing feedback. And you don't need a bunch of people. You need like 5 people, and you will get already amazing results. And that's a fascinating thing, I agree. More questions? Yes?
You talked about future and designing the present, but you talked about the future and designing in the present, very important.
The question is, like I said, the question is, I said designing for a future is important, and do I think that designing for a past is also important? I think there is slight misunderstood here, because I said like we need to design for a future. We need like try to predict what will happen in the future. But all people, part of them is going to the accessibility groups. So of course you will design for them. And like we have some problem also in our industry, like as brewers are progressing very fast, as industry is progressing very fast, almost all the things that we build today in like 5 years that will not work, that will be like old websites that we have that we built for Internet Explorer 6 or something like that. But you need to include, actually what you need to do, you need to research who are your target groups, and you are building for your target groups. That's it. So if that's young people, Instagram is perfectly cool solution. If that are all people, you need to find like some other way. Just for example of Instagram, right? More questions? Okay, thank you.